welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast, a weekly show about the entrepreneurial journey and making it big in any industry. We're your hosts, Joe White and Kane Daniel. Welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Eddy Cocciollo with us. Hey, Eddy.
Hey, Ed. How are you?
Good. Great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Eddy's a true leader in the mortgage industry with over 25 years of experience. He's held key roles at CIBC, CMHC, and GE Money, where he played a major part in product development and international sales. As former president of the Mortgage Centre Canada and now president of DLCG, he's been at the forefront of innovation, leading thousands of mortgage professionals to success. We're going to delve into Eddy's strategies for building strong relationships and achieving that long-term success. But first, I've got a question about how it all began. I mean, you've had and continue to have a fantastic career in the industry, but I'm pretty sure you didn't wake up one morning as a little child thinking, hey, I want to be in the mortgage brokering industry. So how did it all begin?
Wait, I did actually. I woke up one night. I did not know. No. First of all, thanks, guys. I really appreciate being here with you. Hopefully this will be something where people can take some things back and help them in their businesses, in their lives. But yeah, let's start with me waking up. No, I actually went to college and I had a part-time job at Canada Trust as a teller, nonetheless, and just loved doing it. And I eventually had to drop out of school just because, no real reason, and just really enjoyed the interactions I was having with customers and loved that whole finance world and sort of exceeded within the bank. And it was Canada Trust at the time. And I really started there. It was just about, trying to make my way through the bank best I can, from a teller to side counter and then some other roles, and trying to figure out my way through the financial sort of bank world. And I think I did it quite unique. I say that because, as I said, I dropped out of college and, I was surrounded by, university graduates, MBAs, people that had extensive education backgrounds. So I felt like, for me to make it through, I had to prove myself in other ways, and mostly with sales. That's what I excelled at. I built relationships not only with my customers and the businesses around me, but obviously with my colleagues, and just sort of mash my way through and try to do the best I can to impress whoever I could to be recognized and sort of move up the ranks in the bank. So that's sort of what I started doing. And did I think I was going to be in the mortgage field? I had an idea that, I liked the lending portion more than I did the money in portion, only because you felt like you're helping people instead of begging for money. So I know I liked that portion and sort of stuck to that, and eventually got into the mortgage specialist role with CIBC, then mortgage brokering. I did that for a few years before I ended up at GE Money to help them launch in Canada. Yeah, it was exciting. There's a lot of stuff that I did that most people don't have a chance to do. So yeah, it was pretty exciting.
And Eddy, what was it? What do you think, especially in those early days, like you mentioned, what do you think it was that set you apart? Like, what was it that maybe contributed to that, especially that early success that you found? I mean, you mentioned you like sales, you kind of left school. What do you think it was about you that made you different, that you were able to find success right away?
Yeah, a question I get asked quite a bit. The answer is so difficult. Sometimes it's luck, right, guys? I mean, it's being in the right place, the right time, in front of the right person. Sure, you work hard, and man, that's for sure. I worked hard. I never took anything for granted. I always knew that I had to work a little bit harder than the person next to me just to be recognized. So sure, effort was always a part of it. I think I was a gritty guy, and I think I was that one that went that extra mile for sure, because again, didn't have the education piece, not necessarily great in a boardroom. So I had to, do that and find ways to do and get recognized, and again, luck. I had some real, supporters along the way. I think of, Rick Lunny, who was the CEO of G Money at the time. That was a mentor of mine. And think of Gary and Chris, right? At the right time, at the right place. Raza Hassan, at CIBC. Like just many people that, really supported me. And sure, luck. Listen, here's one thing I know. The harder you work, the luckier you are. Right? So,
absolutely.
So it seemed like I worked hard and I got lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. And you must have, something else that I think separates leaders and really successful people is that whether it's by luck or not, when you see an opportunity, you take the opportunity as opposed to, letting it go by. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people sitting in bars just thinking to themselves, I had this opportunity 20 years ago and if only, but the people that actually take those opportunities and take the bulls by the horn are the ones that rise to the top. And, you said you weren't very good in a boardroom. I think you're probably really good in a boardroom now.
When I think back, even when I was a broker and going into that Sutton Group office and saying, hey, I want to be your in-house broker. What do I have to do? Right. And I seized that opportunity and that really catapulted my broker career. And then when GE Money knocked on my door, I seized that opportunity to help them launch in Canada. You're right. I mean, it's seizing the opportunities and not regretting not doing it. It's always like that, right, guys? It's not that you regret doing it. It's you regret not doing it. Take those opportunities as they come and just drive forward. I agree.
Because you know what? There's also that aspect of fear. I mean, we all have the fear of failing, right? But that's something that I think, especially a lot of new people coming into the industry, have to get over that fear of failing because we all have had it. And we all still, I have it. I'm afraid of failing. But the difference being that I know it's going to be worse if I don't try. So I have to try. And if I fail, at least I've made the effort. And I think that's something that a lot of new agents coming in have to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Failing is part of success. And if you don't try, and listen, you learn from it, right? I mean, it's like you said, we've all failed at businesses, failed at positions, failed in sports, failed in school, failed in relationships. But the one thing that failure does for you, it gives you experience and it gives you learning. So I pinch myself every day. Here I am, the president of DLCG, college dropout, like I said, good at sales, learn how to be good in the boardroom, but I pinch myself every day, but I'll tell you, my goals were clear, right? My success path was clear. It was just getting there. Sometimes not a straight line. You're kind of going, back, forth, maybe 2 steps back, a couple steps forward. But the one thing that you have to have is a clear goal. And once that happens, then it opens up so much. And, I wrote down many, many years ago that I would lead the largest network in the country when I was at Mortgage Center. And I thought I'd take Mortgage Center there. Like, honestly, I'm going to take Mortgage Center. We're going to be number one. But it happened to be DLC. But at the end of the day, I threw that out in the universe and it happened for me. I knew I was going to do it, but I didn't know how it was going to come. And sometimes you don't control that, right? You just don't control how you're going to get there. Again, that zigzag. But if you have that mindset, I believe in that. You are capable. Anybody's capable to do anything. I really believe that.
That's what I was going to ask you, Eddy. It's funny you said that. I was just going to ask you if that's something that you wanted to work towards. I mean, when you came in, it sounds like you were had a lot of raw skills and you wanted to build relationships, good sales skills. But that transition into the boardroom, into the becoming an executive, becoming a leader, it sounds like that's something that you wanted, right from the beginning, or is that something that you grew to sort of as a will to have that?
Yeah, the taste I got, Kane, for that was at GE Money. No doubt, looking at a global monster of a company. And back then they were the number one company in terms of assets in the world. And being part of, seeing, Canada and then the US and then globally, I was part of the global mortgage team. I really thought, I belong here. I think this is something I want. So how am I going to get it? And listen, everybody knows sales sometimes is where you make the most money. And I was doing really well. But once you get to that VP or P level or C level, you actually make less, right? It's not about the money necessarily, but it's what I wanted. And it's something I drove towards. And as I said, it was never a straight line. It was never easy, but the goal was clear, and I made the path. So yeah, it was fun.
Now, for someone coming in the industry now, right, as a brand new mortgage agent, maybe they're younger in their 20s or 30s, that path to leadership, I mean, it can't be for everyone, right? Some people are going to be, for example, a mortgage broker, maybe their whole career, and they want to do that. So what do you think now, looking back, how does someone measure that? How does someone understand what their career path might be, whether it might be going into leadership or maybe they stay in sales, they stay as a broker? How did you identify that right away? Was it a skill set? Was it just the mindset? What was it about, or what can it be about someone coming in that they can make that assessment for themselves?
Yeah, and listen, leadership is many things, right, Kane? I mean, when you're a mortgage broker, mortgage agent, you are a leader. Right? You are definitely a leader. Now, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the number one agent in your office? Do you want to be the number one agent in your region? Do you want to be the number one agent in your network? Like, these are things you have to ask yourself. You have to write them down, and you have to work towards it. If you want to be a leader, find others that lead and just do what they do. I say this all the time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to try to figure out how do I do this? There's others that are doing it already. And, one thing I love about this industry is how the top guys share. Like, there's no secrets. Everybody is willing to share how they got to the top. And, I'm honored to be with one of the, be surrounded with some of the best agents in the country. And they're the best agents not because it happened by accident. They're not the best agents because it was their destiny. They're the best agents because they worked hard. They did the things that nobody else would do. They were always looking for ways to be better, right? Either it's self-development, it's learning. There's always ways to be better, and leaders look for that, right? Be it, you name a leader, they always look to be better. And as a mortgage broker and agent, how do you be better? Well, try to find someone that's better than you and do the same things, right? And I think every broker in this country wants to be better. And if they don't, they're not my cup of tea. But hey, listen, you can always be better, right? And it doesn't matter. And I love this because it's so obvious. You walk into a room, there's 5 agents, one does that 2 million and one does 200 million. What's the difference? The one that does 200 million is willing to do things that the one that does 2 million is not. It's that simple. It's all about grit. We know that education, we know that, how high your IQ is. We know it. That doesn't matter. It's about doing the things that others aren't willing to do. And that's how you make it to the top. That's how you lead. And it's the same thing in the boardroom. It's the same thing in corporate world. It's the same thing anywhere you go. Those leaders are willing to do what others aren't. And that takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of work, but it is available to anyone that wants it.
That's a fantastic point. When it comes to that, if somebody comes into the industry and they're hungry, they want to work hard, they just don't know exactly what to do, or, they don't have that person in their life that can give them that little push. What do you think they should do? What would be most helpful for them?
Yeah, and I think it's finding them, right, Joe? It's finding that culture that's going to provide that push, right? So, obviously DLC was built on that culture. The leaders, both Gary and Chris, are, leaders in that, building that culture. And, they do the little things that others don't. There's a reason why DLC is number one in the country. And I work for Mortgage Center, which I love dearly, but they didn't have that culture. DLC did, right? So being part of a culture, being surrounded by that force is the way to do it. And they're out there. It's phone calls. It's, trying to find those that are there already this industry, again, is fantastic because there's easy ways to do it. There's chat rooms, there's conferences, there's, I'll pick up the phone and call me, and I'll point you in the right direction. Like, anybody can find it if they're looking for it.
So do you think that's part of the success of the DLCG story, or the culture, that it's attracted people who like to share their knowledge and expertise with others, especially those coming into the industry, and help them grow?
I think it's part of it, Joe. I mean, I think DLC and DLCG has proven to be different. When you look at our training, our education, when you look at our conferences, when you look at what we do, it is extraordinary. I don't think anybody offers what we do to help you be successful. It's just not out there. And I know my competition. I know them very well, including them. And I know what they do. They don't do what we do. It's just that simple.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this, about culture and about mentorship, and Eddy, like you said, how wonderful this industry is, which I think a lot of people don't realize outside the industry, that there is a really amazing community of people that want to give back, that want to help, that want to share information. So it's really wonderful, for those that are considering coming in. But I wanted to ask you about culture, and about finding, for someone maybe now that's looking for a brokerage, or any industry, they're looking for a company to work with. How did they make that assessment on culture? I mean, it's one thing to do an interview or to research some online, but what is it that they can do, or how do they figure out maybe if it's the right fit for them in terms of culture, right?
Yeah, you're right. This industry is fantastic. It can provide your family with, the financial security, the freedom. It is a wonderful, wonderful industry. Anybody that has the tenacity to succeed should come to this industry, because that is the door wide open for you to do that. And then when you are here, Kane, that's such a great question. I think DLC has done a good job within the industry to let people know what we do. But there's some competitors that do well as well. It's just up to you. And sometimes it takes a few tries. Hey, I'm going to try this network or this group. Or, I'm not getting where I want to go. Maybe I'll make that change. And change is difficult. We know that change is not easy. But if you're willing to do it for the right reasons, I would highly recommend it. Make that change. If you're stuck, if you're at a level that you've been for a while and you just feel like you need a springboard, make the change. Because I don't think anybody, and I can talk about bankers for just a minute, because some of our best brokers are bankers. That change is difficult, but the ones that have made it, how incredible are they? Like, their lives have changed forever. I haven't had one banker that says, I wish I'd never done it. In fact, they've said, I wish I'd done it sooner. Make that change. Make that leap. It's hard. I get it. Comfort is the enemy of progress, right? We all know that. If you're comfortable, I get it. But sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to make it to that next level.
That fear of taking that step and taking that risk. And you're absolutely right. I've never talked to somebody who's made the switch and said, you know what, I really want to go back to the bank. I've never heard that.
Yeah, even like different industries. I love that. Like I've changed people's lives personally that were in the molding business, or, we're a server, and I talk about our industry. They said, you know what, like my personal banker came over. And it's so gratifying to know that you've contributed to changing these people's lives.
Yeah.
And they come back to you and say, oh my God, Eddy, thank you so much. And I'm like, hey, listen, I didn't do anything. I was passionate about my industry. It's you.
Yeah.
That, put in the work, made the time, and got to that level. But I'm so happy you did it. And it just makes me smile. It's no better feeling. No better feeling.
Now with bankers, Eddy, because we see more bankers coming through now, I think, than we ever have. You mentioned you have a banking background as well. What do you think? What do you think the big fear is for those coming over? Maybe those considering jumping over. What is the big fear, and then how have you seen it work well for those that did come through and find that success?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to comfort, but the fear is I'm with a big brand. Now I'm a broker. I went from huge to not so big. I think that's one. The fear of change, I'm comfortable. They support me. It's great. My business card looks great. Sometimes it's your spouse or your significant other that's like, oh, why would you leave the bank and go work for a broker? Like, there's a lot of levels there, Kane. And the best thing to do is have conversations. Have conversations with brokers. Have conversations with leaders like myself. Let us take you through what that transition will look like. You guys run a fantastic education program. I think you start there, right? Making sure that you're with the right education to understand the broker world, because it's different. You guys know, like, you're going from a bank, it's like drinking from a fire hose here on the broker side. But there's ways through it, and we can walk you through it. You guys can walk them through it, and we can really help these bankers or any industry that you think you need change. The automobile industry is another one. Financial planning, insurance. These are all industries that play well, for lack of a better term, with our industry. And if you're looking for that next level, I really believe, we can help you.
That's a great point. And it's frustrating sometimes seeing people that they have so much, I hate the word potential, but you look at it and you think, dude, you're working in this industry and you would just flourish if you came over here. And there's that fear. And I think there's also, the fact that somebody works for a bank, there's a bit of that allure there that I work for a really big company and I attach part of my self-worth to that name that everybody knows. I'm with TD Bank. But at the end of the day, you go home and your wallet says to you, yeah, you're with TD Bank. Why don't you, get out of the industry? So, yeah, it's frustrating sometimes talking to people and saying, why aren't you making this move? So, with that being said, what do you think the best qualities are for somebody who want to come into this? So if they're looking in the mirror trying to self-assess because they're afraid of making the move. So what do you think they should be saying? I have this, I have that, so I'm going to be good. What should they be looking for?
It's so funny you say that. How many times have we been shocked and surprised of someone that's an introvert or someone that, looks like they probably wouldn't succeed, and they're lighting it up? The answer to that is you never know. But if you have the passion, you have what it takes in terms of understanding what entrepreneurship means, understanding what you are the keeper and the only sole person that's going to push and get to that next level. If your mind is good on that, the attributes that really tick off those boxes is hard to say. I always said if you love learning, if you're okay with speaking to people, and you're one that is willing to put in the work, you sort of have that grit. Like, grit is, one of my favorite books is called Grit by Angela Duckhorn, and she talks about comparing, again, high IQs, these athletes that are tip-top shape, and, CEOs and all these different, astronauts and why. And it was grit. It was grit that made these people successful. So again, I go back to that room with the 2 million and 200 million. The person that's willing to do what they're not doing, it's all about grit. If you feel like you have that passion and grit, you are going to succeed here.
It's so well put, Eddy, because talking to brokers and brokerages that are hiring in this industry, I think there's a misconception out there that it's about, being finance driven and I have to know. And it's like, no, not really. We see a lot of people coming through that work in the service industry.
It's funny. You look at our top 10 brokers and they're all new immigrants, right? Either their parents immigrated to Canada or they're new immigrants. And we go back to that grit. Like, all they want to do is be successful to show that they've done it, right?
Yeah.
They just want to go out there and prove not only to themselves, but their families that they have what it takes. And you look at that top 10 and, it's amazing. That new immigrant like mentality, mindset is just wonderful to see. It's actually,
yeah, absolutely. I've thought about that before, that if I had to make a switch from this country because it it wasn't doing it for me. It went to hell, or there was political unrest, and I thought, my family's going to do better in another country. How incredibly difficult that would be. And you look at people who come to Canada and they build a new life, and it's, I got to take a step back, because I see a lot of students like that, right? They're in their second career, they're immigrants, and they're incredibly brave. And that does, as you mentioned about grit, it takes a lot of grit and determination. And those are the people that this industry really needs, right? Yeah. Those people that are focused. They want to help. They want to help others succeed.
Yeah. It's fascinating. We it's and the women in this industry.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I'm not sure what the ratio was, but definitely, you look at the success that women have had in this industry, it's incredible. And they've like honestly left the men behind. Like we probably, if you look at our top agents, many are women, and they've done an incredible job at resonating. And then when you look at the finance decision, it happens, and it's proven, it happens with the women, right? They make the finance decision. So, it works really well. So yeah, it's what an incredible industry, right? We are so blessed to be in this industry. It's not even,
the grit and the determination. What do you think somebody should do, if they're on a bit of a downswing? I mean, we've seen people leave the industry because things got tough and interest rates went up. Although, you know what, if you stick around, there's always a solution. Interest rates go up, private mortgages come in, interest rates go down, institutional mortgages, flourish. But what do you think there is for that to drive that person who may be feeling like, I'm having trouble getting through this?
Yeah, and this business is cyclical, as you know. Ebbs and flows. And I think and you look at the last couple of years, which it hasn't been as obviously as robust as the couple of years before that. But you look at the top guys, and the top guys find a way through. They find a way to either keep, on that trajectory without seeing a slip. And how they do it usually is they do more, right? So if they did 10 phone calls a day, it's 15 now. If they were meeting, 6 realtors a month, they're meeting 12.
Right.
They adjust to the market, so they're always at that level. Kurt Henry, who is a Mortgage Center broker out in Curtis, Ontario, just a machine, an absolute pleasure, just a really good broker. And he says, and he's got a team of 8, I think, or 9, maybe more. Kurt, sorry but he says, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for these people's lives. I'm responsible for their livelihood. So, and he is so connected to the market, meaning that he's always on the phone, talking to realtors, always ensuring that he's the first to know if there's going to be a slip in the market. And what does he do? He adds an hour to his calls. So his outbound calls, which are 9 to noon every day, now are 9 to 1, because he understands that there is some slip in the market, but he doesn't want to slip because people are counting on him.
So that's a fantastic piece of advice. When things are starting to go down a little bit, or you start to think that things aren't going your way, what I'm hearing is double down, go harder.
Go harder.
Yeah.
Market more, make more phone calls, find more opportunities. Like, I think what happens is, and it's like anywhere, when things are going well, you get stuck on this sort of treadmill, right? And when things start sliding off, you're still doing the same things. And we all know the same things don't get the same results, right? If you want more, you have to do more. Even, again, this day and age, we have Gold Rush, for example, at DLCG, where we've recognized this renewal glut that's coming on the horizon, and we put a automatic system so that brokers can connect and communicate with this renewal in their database automatically. And those are the things you have to do. You have to add, not subtract, keep the same. What can I add to my business that's going to get me more attention, more opportunity, Is it more phone calls, more technology, more realtors, more financial planners? All of that needs to be assessed every single time, every time there's a slip, right? So I think that's the answer, though, is you have to find ways to find more.
I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier about having that grit and having the right mindset. But I'm thinking maybe for those that, for someone that's maybe feeling stuck, right? That can't get there, that just can't double down. They're feeling stuck. How do they dig themselves out of that? And I think part of it might be finding what their motivation is. Having their, like Simon Sinek would say, finding the why, and that might be a big part of it. But I'm interested to hear if that's what you think it is, and like, how did you find that? How did you have that grit? Like, what was the driving force for you?
You were successful already for me. Like, nobody, again, it doesn't happen to accident. So what is it that you have been doing to be successful? And reevaluate that. And, for me, I feel like I'm a people person in my relationships. I am good at ensuring that I'm in front of someone and we are communicating, and that gets me to that next level. So I would double down on that because I know I'm good at that. But maybe, what made you successful is how you communicated, or the avenues you communicated with, and how you followed up and followed through. So you have to sometimes reevaluate your successes, and then, as Joe puts it, double down on those and figure those out. Like, we all get stuck in a rut. Like, there's no, like, I don't care who you are, if you're Elon Musk or, anybody else, you always get stuck and you have to sort of pull yourself back. And sometimes pulling yourself back is locking yourself in a room for 8 hours, 10 hours a week, and just looking and reassessing. I'm a big, I'm a reader. Personal development is important to me. Sometimes I go back to my books that I know have developed my motivation, and I'll go back to those so I can get back on track. One book that I keep going back, Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. I don't know if you guys have ever read that. Same sort of mindset as Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but that's my go-to. Like, when I'm stuck down that rut, I've read that book 20 times and I've listened to it 30 because it resonates with me. It gets me back on. It's like, yes, yes, yes. And that's what my motivation, that's what gets me back, are little things like that, or even having a conversation with a mentor. Gary Morris is one of my mentors, and it's, I can pick up the phone and talk to him, and so it's just finding those little ways to get back on track. I think, Kane, that got you there in the first place, and maybe it's kind of slipped and you forgot, but what you can rekindle it by just searching for that one or two or maybe several things that's going to get you back.
I liked your point about the book. And I've done this a few times in my own life, and it's amazing that even a podcast or something else content that you see, view, take in, that when you watch it or read it at different times, you'll get different things from it, right? It's really interesting that way.
Yeah, I've done Darren Hardy's, I think, 4 times now, and every time I do it, it's something different, something new, or it comes, even if it's the same thing, I look at it differently. So it's, we say, repeat. It's really important. Jim Rohn is one of my early mentors. Jim Rohn is fantastic. Like, just listen to one of his podcasts, and if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will. So yeah, you're right. Just going back to what you like, what you know, and do it again. And don't be afraid. Like, read the same book, fold a different page.
Yeah, it's really cool. The words or the lessons take on a different meaning when you change positions in your life. It's like, talking about Darren Hardy. It was like the first time I was there, I was at a certain point in my development, and what I heard and learned meant something to me then, that what I heard and learned, even though it was very similar a couple of years later, meant something different to me, because I was at a different place on that path. Going up the mountain, I was a little further up, so the view was a little different and the meaning was a little different. Yeah. So, what I wanted to ask you about is, because you're widely respected for a lot of things in this industry, and it comes across in how you present yourself, why you are widely respected. But one of the things I know that you're known for is your ability to make strong professional relationships. And maybe you could speak to that about, the reason that relationship building is important and how to go about that. Because I look at this industry and I see, it's a lot about relationships.
I think if you look at this industry, or you look at many industries where it's a sales culture, people like to talk. I like to listen. Listening does a lot of things. One thing it does is you learn more by listening than talking. And when you learn about somebody else and you're taking either mental notes, or when you go back, you take physical notes and you bring that back up at a later time, people appreciate it. People know that you're in it more than it's for yourself. You're in it for them. And if you make them feel more important than you think you are, then that is going to be a great start to a relationship. So to answer that is listen, take notes, mental or even physical later. And Gary Morris is a master at this, as you guys know. And the name thing, I cannot underestimate the name of that person, and knowing their name is so huge. And if you can go back to anybody in a crowd and repeat their name after meeting them once, you've got their attention. You are going to be a big part of their business or their lives. So it's the little things like that, I think, that maybe separate myself than to others, is just the listening piece. And I can tell you, I've been around many, and I sit there and I watch this person and just blah, blah, blah.
Eddy, I think that's such an important piece of advice that you just gave, because I see that too. I see sometimes, I like to watch and see sometimes people that they're just waiting for their turn to speak. They're not actively listening. And I think that's really, really super important, and maybe not as well understood, the benefits of really actively listening. Like, I think exactly as you talked about, right? Like having quality questions, being interested, being curious about people, and really having a genuine care about them and their well-being. So I guess that kind of transitions into what I wanted to ask you now was, what do you think is going to happen with mortgage agents, in particular mortgage brokers, in the coming years as technology maybe changes, at least operationally, how we, as brokers, how we operate, right? How we do our jobs. What do you think is going to happen? What are you preparing for?
And being, owners of a technology allows us to, be ahead. And it's really important. Brokers, it's about advice, right? We are consultants. We ensure that when we're giving our advice, we're giving it as an unbiased position. That's why we have multiple lenders. That's why we're able to give out multiple products. So I think that people will generally always look for advice in the biggest financial decision in their lives. And brokers will have to adapt to the technologies in order for them to be better at giving that advice and that consultation. So when AI comes into play and people are all worried that AI is going to take over, it's not, but it's going to help you be better, right? We go back to, when the digital mortgage came in play, and I think it was Rob McClister that said, brokers are not going to be, they're going to peter out and they're not going to be and we've never been at the forefront more than we have. Continue on stealing market share from the banks. We continue on growing. It's because people want that security of advice, knowing that a professional is in front of them, looking for their best interest in order to advance them into that financial decision. It's going to be a human being. But if you want to ignore technology, you're going to be left behind. If you want to say, I'm good at my old school way. Sure, it might be good today and maybe tomorrow, but I can tell you it's not going to be good for you in next month, next year. So embrace technology, take it as it comes, ensure you're learning about it, understanding how it's going to advance you in your career. And I promise you, agents will only excel, brokers will only be sought after more than ever. I promise you. And I'm talking a long time from now, not only next year, the year after, I'm talking about a decade from now. Brokers will keep advancing, taking more market share, and being the ones sought after for that advice.
Yeah, it's a great point. It does boil down to a relationship, and as you were saying before, and these are tools that we can use. I also remember somebody at a conference we did saying, that you're using this AI. Does it have to be licensed? And that's a fundamental misunderstanding of the technology as a tool and not as a replacement. And it's no, it doesn't have to be licensed because it's your tool. And that's something that I love talking about in the technology side is like your group has Newton, and it's a fantastic piece of technology that I know DLCG has invested a lot of time and effort in. I really enjoyed listening and hearing about was Gold Rush. And you touched on that a little earlier. Do you think that these technological tools, will begin to really separate the larger players, larger networks from like mom and pops that might not have access to them?
You look at the biggest companies in the world, the one advantage they have over, we'll call it mom and pop, is that they're able to advance quicker and gain more, eyeballs, more interest, and more opportunity. So, something like Gold Rush, which in terms of what it does is simple, but at the end of the day, it does it for you. What we've learned, guys, is brokers and agents want to do things, but they don't want to put the effort into doing them. So we've taken that away from them and said, hey, all you have to do is say yes, and we'll do everything for you. That's the magic of Gold Rush, right? The communication piece, it's a CRM. Most people understand, but it's the fact that we'll go in and we'll set it up. We'll make sure that we fire all the proper communications when it comes to refinances, when it comes to renewals, when it comes to all of that pertains to that existing database mortgage. We'll put those campaigns together. They'll be beautiful. They'll make you look professional. Just allow us to do it. That is the biggest piece. That's where the success has gone from here to here.
And that allows these brokers to go out and focus on relationships, right? And focus on getting clients, meeting with clients, talking about the benefits of that interpersonal relationship, as opposed to how do I formulate this communication? How do I make sure that I'm always on top of it? How do I do the things that don't jazz me? Because that's all of our problem, right? If we're not excited and jazzed to do something, we tend to let it fall by the wayside. And that communication piece that Gold Rush takes care of is vital for growing your business from your current network.
Vital. It is, when you look at the successes that we've seen early with Gold Rush, and as we continue to see this glut of renewals coming up and these opportunities for refinancing, it's only going to advance your business more and more. You cannot do what Gold Rush does on your own unless you take the time and when you take time doing that, you're taking time away from something else, right? We want to eliminate the fact that you are going to take time away from what you do best, which is out giving advice, making sure you're connecting with your referral sources, your realtors, and your clients, and we'll take care of everything else. And that's the magic of it. It's been wonderful, and that evolution of that piece is just gonna continue to grow and grow, and we're pretty excited about the future.
We talk a lot about that, about the role of technology, and I think what we're all saying here, some people think that it's going to remove the human connection, and what it might actually end up doing, and this is what I think, is that it'll enhance the human connection. It'll be giving agents more time, more ability to do their highest and best use, which is just that relationships and connecting with people on a human level, because that's what most of us still want, especially when you're talking about something like a huge transaction like a mortgage.
Oh, hey, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, again, technology, these pieces that we can do and advance these brokers is just going to enhance, what these offerings are. And brokers will continue to be sought after, as I said, for advice and consultation. It's just going to be amazing. I tell you, you guys are loving this industry now. Wait a couple of years. It's going to get better and better, right? Brokers are going to, going to be the ones that are going to be sought after more than any other for consultation on finances. I'm so excited. I'm really excited.
Where do you see DLC going? Where do you see what's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, listen, we've done, really well on different levels, and we'll just continue doing that, Joe. We're just going to be focused on helping our brokers be better. We want it to be easier for them to work their business. For our owners, we want to make sure that they have what it takes to be successful as owners. For our brokers and agents, what they need and tools and technology and to make things easier. We're just going to focus on that. We're going to continue on ensuring that our brokers can be better. We're going to advance technology and ensure that they have the tools. AML is coming up, as you guys know, and that's a big part. And we're going to, listen, the regulatory bodies are going to continue on, putting more and more towards this industry, which is great because we are a professional industry. Finally, we can say, hey, you know what? When more regulatory bodies are paying attention to us, that means the more we're going to be advancing. I really believe that. And we want to put the tools in front of our brokers that are going to help them, with the regulators. And we're pretty excited. We're pretty excited about the future.
Eddy, we talked about sort of tools and mindset and culture. Is it something you guys look at is how your agents and brokers sort of manage their stress levels or manage their blend, like work-life blend, especially being entrepreneurs, right? Because it could get out of hand at some times and maybe, there's that burnout. Do you guys think about that? And how is that, like, what's the advice there, especially for someone that maybe is hitting it really hard and maybe leaving some of the other stuff behind?
Maybe lacking it in the home front and ignoring the significant other.
In order to be successful to a degree where you are absolutely lighting it up, there are sacrifices to be made. You guys know that. I know that because it's happened. And to find that balance, it's about expectations. I really believe that. Because I can sit here and say, yeah, I work your 8 hours, right? And then when you go home, make sure you have dinner with your family. That's easy. But that's not the truth. The truth is that there's sacrifices. Those nights, the kids' soccer games, all of those, you want to attend them. There's no doubt. But if you set those expectations and you're sitting down your family and you're saying, hey, listen, we're going to go to Disney this year, or we're going to do something epic this year. Make sure my summers are going to spend 4 weeks straight with you. But here's the sacrifices that your father, your mother, the couple, the parents, the guardians, whoever has to do in order for us to enjoy these things, and everybody understands it. I think that's the important piece because, work-life balance is all about expectations. I can't sit here and say, yes, you're going to be successful working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Go for it. You could. I'm not saying you can't, but sometimes there is sacrifices to get to that level, right? And if I look at my top 50, my top 40, my top 30, top 10, top 1, I can tell you when you say balance, it's work more than life, right? It's right. It just is. And listen, the mental pieces of that, you have to make sure, if it's, going to the gym or reading, you have to incorporate all that in your business, but the expectations are really important, right?
So it's important to have your significant other on board with you and understanding what's going on and supportive as opposed to pushing.
Right.
And constant communication as well. I mean, you have to be.
Understand. Because if you're just, at the office 10 o'clock and you're not having that communication, right? It's not good, right? It's got to be constant. Hey, this is why here. And this is what we're doing Sunday. Sunday's all about you, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, I got to work all day Saturday because I want to get to that next level and I'm dealing with new realtors so this is what I have to do. You're supportive. Yes. Kids are supportive. Yes. Expectations are set. Yes. Sunday, all day with you guys.
And I think as part of this as well, it's important to, we talked earlier about what your motivations are and having your why. It's also important to have that discussion, I think, with your family as well. This is why we're doing this. We all have the same goal. We all have the same finish line in mind or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Right. It's like, hey, this is our goal. This is our goals. Our goals is to do vacation every year at somewhere epic. Our goals is to live, and put a roof over our head that we all love. Our goals are this. We all in? We're all in, Dad. We're all in, Mom. We're all in. Okay, great. So here's what's going to happen. You're not going to see me these days, but you're going to see me all day this day. Sally, I'm going to miss your baseball game. Johnny, I'm going to miss your soccer game. on this day, but mom's going to be there. And you know what? Guess what? Because mom is working so hard, dad gets to take you everywhere because he gets to stay home. Because mom's going to go and kick some butt. We're all going to cheer her on. We're all going to support her, and dad's going to be with you while we do all that. Hey, that sounds great. Like, that's just the expectation part, right? And you don't want to give false expectations. Like, I don't work 9 to 5 and I'm still going to do $100 million a year. Doubt it. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I just doubt it because I know the $100 million producers. They don't work 7.5-hour days, right?
But they do get to take some time off in the summer, right? They prioritize, they plan, and there's that trade-off. As you say, you work long hours, and the trade-off is you get to play hard as long as you're working hard, right?
I think an important thing to add in here as well is if you do enjoy it, right? If you find where is the joy at the end of it, so it's we say work hard, but there is joy in that process as well. And then if you're not finding that joy, it's going to be even more difficult.
I share my successes with my family because then we all get to experience it, right? So if I sign a big team or we have a good quarter, I celebrate that with my family. Because they're my biggest supporters. They're on my team.
But I think a lot of people like to leave the office at the office. They don't want to bring it home. But it's such a better idea to share those successes, right? Get everybody on the same page. Hey, I saw you on a podcast. Hey, I saw you on YouTube, and it's all. I know my kids are like, hey, it was an ad for rent. Yeah, it was paid. You saw it, but they're excited.
I think you bring it home anyway. I mean, you're going to bring it home either way, right?
And listen, sometimes you want to share the losses too. You got to be careful with that because you don't want everybody. But sometimes say, hey, you know what? This quarter or this year wasn't as good as last year. I'm going to have to work a little bit harder. As here's what happened. But you know what? Mom's on board, right? So we're going to have a little bit more sacrifice this year, but you know what? Maybe next year will be better and we can do something epic. Like, those are the things that, again, work-life balance is more about expectations than it is about actually the 7.5 hours, all that stuff.
One of the things I think, and this is something I try to do with my kids is, when I'm going to be spending time with you, I'm going to drop the phone. I'm going to be present with you. I don't do that anywhere near as well as I should, but I think that's part of that balance that we're talking about. Is if you say, there's going to be a sacrifice, when the sacrifice is done, you have to be present, right?
You know what, Joe? Being present is a gift that many of us forget about, and including me. It's funny. This reel thing, there should be no reels on phones. I got to get rid of these stupid reels because I and here's the funny thing is there's some very educational reels out there that are, about mindset, and I love them, right? And then you get caught up in them. But, my kids will always catch me, he's watching reels. I'm like, no, wait. Yeah. But you're right, be present. So it's so important that when you are with the family, Jim Rohn says it. Jim Rohn says all the time, right? When you're at the beach, your mind's at the office. When you're at the office, your mind's at the beach. Well, that when you're at the office, you're at the office, and the beach at the beach.
Well, Eddy, you know what? You've said so much. And it's been so insightful. I know at the beginning you were saying, I think, I hope that I say something that somebody can take away. You said a lot that people can take away that will have an impact in their businesses. And I think it's pretty obvious after having a chat with you for nearly an hour that you're definitely a leader and you're in the right position being, leading DLC.
I'm a little quieter, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes I can be, but I can tell you I love what I do. I'm so grateful for the people around me, and I can tell you that my staff, and I should have said my staff, the staff, they're the real reason why DLCG is where they are at today. And I'm very blessed to be working alongside some incredible people, and I'm talking about all the way through 50 some odd people now at DLCG that are just incredible through and through. So as much as I like to think that, sometimes I should take credit, I deserve zero. I really do. They are just amazing. So very good.
Yeah, you know what? That's another reason you're successful is because of the humility there. And that's nice that you say you'll take zero. Others will give you the credit because I think you deserve a lot of it. Obviously, everyone's success is built around the team that we have with us. But you know what? It's you're a definite asset to this industry, and it's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
Hey guys, listen, I really appreciate this. You know what? If there's anything I can do for you going forward, let me know. I know we have some things to talk about with Remick, and I think it's going to be all good news, and I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship, our partnership, and just thriving together.
Yeah, same here. We love you guys, and continued success, Eddy. It's been a real pleasure.
Okay, buddy. See ya, Kane.
Thanks. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the $1 Billion Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
For more in-depth entrepreneurial insights, follow us on social media, and for more info on the show, go to billiondollarpodcast.com.
See you next time.